All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Crypto and Coffee podcast. My name is Giordano. I'm joined by David Blackstone and Cordell Tanny, my two co-hosts. And I would highly advise you guys grab your cup of coffee, tea, bottle of water. Doesn't really matter at this point. And in today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about running a business, owning a startup, from our own experiences. Everyone here is the CFO of their own company, well, CEO, sorry, of their own company. And we've all gone through a lot over the past, I guess, 2-3 years or even more. Cordell, you've been in the business space for at least probably a decade or more.
No. As an entrepreneur, I started my first company, or started the first iteration, I should say, of my company in the end of 22.
Oh.
So yeah, it's been 4 years, I would say, since I've been really running, trying to build a business and things like that. So 4 years, not a decade.
Yeah. And you were starting in like COVID. So like, it's just like, you have like all these problems, I assume, being, everything being online.
Yes and no. I mean, because when COVID hit, it was actually interesting. I was working as a portfolio manager for a Canadian bank on the RIA side, and I was planning on leaving. And I had an interview with the new company that I was going to, one of Canada's largest mutual fund companies. I had an interview the day before the lockdown started. So I did the interview. I was actually in Florida. I was in Hollywood, Florida. My brother lives in North Carolina, so I was down there visiting my grandfather. My grandfather had a condo down there. Used to go every year with my brother. We'd meet up, and I remember sitting around the pool, or even at the airport as we were both flying home. And I just looked around. I turned to my brother. I said, "Jared, you should enjoy this. I have a feeling we're not going to be sitting in public for very much longer." And I didn't realize how right that was going to be, because the next day I had the interview, and then the lockdown started on that Saturday. So it was just an interesting thing about being in COVID, because you have that interview, and then it's like everything's locked down. You're like, well, okay, well, this is definitely not going to happen now, right? I mean, but turns out I wound up getting the job. It took them a long time to figure out how to hire somebody, though, in COVID. This was the first time that they had to hire somebody when everybody was at home. So, I was the guinea pig in terms of HR, getting systems set up and everything remotely. So, because the business that I was starting was an online business, I mean, like most startups, especially in the tech space, are still extremely remote. Like most, who wants the office? Who wants the overhead, the expenses of an office? That stuff is pretty costly. So I wouldn't say the challenge at first was being remote. I think the challenge at first was just being a rookie. Like the challenges that all of us have faced as when you're starting a company is like, you don't really know what you're doing. And you learn as you go, you make mistakes, and you try very hard not to repeat those mistakes.
Yeah, and that's true. Like, as an entrepreneur, you're just going through, like, you're walking through thorns, you're going through like the fire, and you're just learning as you're going. So, David, from your own experience, you own Orchestra Labs. You're not necessarily the most of a marketing guy. You're a very technical guy. Tell us a little bit about, your experience, running your own startup.
You can learn a bit of the marketing yourself, but I wouldn't recommend it. Granted, if you hire someone, you're going to have to really, really vet them, because you can waste a lot of money that way as well. So I spent a good bit of time with marketing, got things running up, got things ramped up, and going very, very well. Pulled in several thousand people. Had kept them around for a good while, like over a year. And things went very well on the chain side for that. With that, the more I specifically stayed around, the better. I did let other people try, gave them a go, so that way I could focus more on the tech side. And when they came in, quite often they did a good bit less than I did, and so things would decline at those periods. Thing that really would have kicked it off, though, would have been if we had gotten funding, because once funding comes in, then everyone sees that as, oh, these guys are legitimate now, as opposed to before. That was the big thing that we had to fight against. And with that, there are some other things that go along with that. Like with funding comes access to large marketing companies, those ones that get the really good ratings, because very likely those are the ones that are going to do very, very well. You get access to ad space. You get access to different creators, like large creators on YouTube. Like if you wanted to advertise in crypto, going with those large channels like Coin Bureau, for example, like that would be very, very good. But that costs a lot of money to be able to be featured on a show like that. So you have to get funded, and that's where a lot of the stuff comes in. A lot of the problems.
Yeah, and I think like a very good point is that, I think as a startup owner, I think your first 100 users or first 1,000 users, you should be able to get them on your own, or you should be able to market to them, because you need to find that product market fit. You need to get that feedback to, overall get the product going.
No, I agree. I mean, bootstrap it, whatever you want to call it, organic. The other things, a lot of the things that I learned also at first, and I started by doing a lot of my own digital marketing courses, learning how to, buy the right materials, buy the right lighting if you're going to record stuff on your phone or an iPad, how to do YouTube videos. So I did so many things like this just to get acquainted to. Look, I had no real experience in marketing before. I'm a technical guy, although I've done some sales work here and there. So, but even with it, some of the stuff that I learned, aside from getting the right software and learning how to do my own video, like I got really good at video editing pretty quickly. So, but some of the things I learned, especially as David said, hiring the right people, wasting money. We had a very good social media marketing company that we engaged. Like these guys are top, and they've won awards. They're really, really fantastic. But it's all expensive, right? So, if you wanted to do it yourself, and even just trying to go with, Google ads and start doing all of these things, it's like Google ads are incredibly expensive. Like you have to start knowing how to do your keyword targeting, and then there's a cost for each one of the keywords. You really do need someone that knows what he or she is doing with it, because to do it on your own, you're probably going to end up wasting a lot of time and money. And the other thing I learned, when you start doing it organically, going after your first 100 clients, stuff like that, I mean, this is what I've learned. The first step, and people always say it's always brand identity. The first thing that you're trying to build is the brand. So especially if you're trying to do it more as, what we were doing, asset management or selling strategies, well, your brand is really, we're just trying to make you money. So our brand is we make you money. Use our algorithms, we'll make you money. Not as simple as that. So, you're going to spend it easily just the first 3 to 6 months just getting your brand out there. Right. So, you're not going to go out there and do a hard sell. Everybody, the textbook is, and you're right 100%. You have to talk to your users. That's the whole point of the first 100. Find out, get that intelligence, but what we always try and do is what's the problem and how are we trying to solve that problem? Right. That's like, the rules to sell anything. It's what? Convince people they have a problem, or identify the problem, convince people they have that problem, and then convince people that you have the solution to that problem. That's what we're all told. That's the textbook way to sell anything. So, but you don't just go out there right away and say, hey, you have this problem, I'm going to fix it, because, people are going to say, why you? Who are you? Why should I trust you? So it takes time to build up that trust factor. And sorry, go ahead.
There's
David.
a big problem on that I encountered. If you have a problem, if you have a well-known problem that a lot of people encounter, that a lot of people complain about, and then you come up with a solution, you create a solution, you bring it forward, and then you start talking about that solution. All of a sudden, everyone will start saying, like, well, how is this even a problem? Like, what are you solving for? It's like, you were talking about this for years. It's like, if you did not have a way to access this stuff before, and I gave you a way to access this, and now you forgot about the previous problem that you've been talking about, what are you supposed to do?
Well, I guess it wasn't much of a problem. It went away, where people don't want to admit they have the problem. Once you tell them they have the problem, it's one of those. But yeah, but look, the problems, So one of the things that I was told to do, and this is more from coming from accelerators and VCs, is you start with your business canvas, right? So there's no point building out a 40, 50 page business plan, that's all fluff, you're just filling out pages and no one even winds up reading it. So what they tell you to start with nowadays is a business canvas. It's like a condensed kind of business plan where the goal is to, one, identify your value proposition. So first and foremost, what's your value proposition, which comes down to the problem that you're trying to solve. So here's my value proposition, and you're supposed to identify who that, who you're targeting that to. And then you put down the other things, what resources do you need? What do you have? Your capital, a little bit of a basic business model in terms of the revenue. So you're putting all of this together. And it does help you as a guide, and it will help you with identifying who your target client is and what problem you're trying to solve. And ultimately, what you're really trying to figure out. And this is something I had an amazing boss, sadly just passed away about a month ago from from pancreatic cancer, that taught me something really important. I'll ask you guys, what is the first rule of sales? What's the first rule of sales?
If I remember correctly, always be selling.
No, that's the Glenn Ross. They always be closing. That's the ABC from
the first rule of
Alec
sales
Baldwin.
the first rule of sales thing is to ask what the user wants itself. Know what the user wants. Is that true? Yeah.
It's getting to it. But it's more than that, because essentially what the first rule of sales is this is what he taught me. If you say it, they will doubt it. If they say it, it's the truth. So ultimately, you're trying to get people to understand that they have a problem and that they need the solution, but they have to be the ones to say it. You can't just go out there and tell somebody, you have this problem, here's the solution, because they're, people get defensive or whatever. So, ultimately, when you're building these things and identifying your target, your target clientele, and you want to reach them, and the marketing and all of this, they have to be the ones to identify with the problem. They can't, I know there's the hard sell model, you need this, but how often does that actually work on people? Ultimately, people need to feel it. They need to come to the conclusion themselves that they have this problem and that they need you. Mm-hmm. So, and that's really where a lot of the art comes in instead of the science. It's how do you get to people? How do you figure out exactly how to communicate? And plus, everyone communicates differently. So yeah, I mean, the user research was huge. I started doing a lot of reaching out to people in terms of how do you manage your own money? Where do you do it? I started doing a lot of surveys like that. And I think one thing that I found very helpful, which was somebody else who started a business like this told me, is that the second somebody signs up for your service, they should be sent a survey on the spot. How did you find us? Just get more information as quickly as you can from people. And that look, your response rates are very low. Okay, you're not going to get good response rates, but the information that you get is incredibly valuable because you start to really understand, the psychology of who you're going after.
And if I may add to that, I think that for most people, you can have a great product, but market and brand identity really does carry it, because you can build what as David is going through the same problem. He's building this this wallet or this stable coin that most people have already been asking for, but the marketing isn't the best, and that is probably why people are not adopting it.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
If no one knows you're there, no one's gonna get it if no one knows you're there.
Yeah.
As you said, you basically touched on the exact problem that I had. If you say it, they'll doubt it. They were saying it for a while, the moment I said it, all of a sudden it was called into question. For example, on-chain forex, talked about it 3 years ago. Now people are saying that, oh yeah, we should do this. Stablecoins being controllable, your money being controllable, even though it's on chain. We were talking about that, made a solution. Now all of a sudden it's not a problem anymore. Same for access to capital. Capital denoted on chain in foreign currencies. all of these things were solved for, and all of them in one place. But none of them were a problem the moment I brought it forward. So like it really had to be a you, not me thing.
Yeah, I mean the you not me, but that's what, yeah, you got to focus it on that. And you know, so one of the ways you're supposed to, I mean, that's if you're doing more on a one-on-one, you know, talking to someone as opposed to, you know, the mass marketing. It's just really understanding, you know, the way people see the world. Everybody sees the world differently, and you have to be able to communicate with each person through their filter, through the language that they're used to, you know, how their brain works. So it takes time to figure that out. So on the mass marketing side, you can't really do that. So, you know, I also find it really interesting that, you know, given with AI, right, and a lot of the tools that we have at our disposal, it is so easy for us to say, look, I can just go onto Canva and I can do everything myself. I can create my logo. I can create all of my collateral materials. I can build promo videos, and trust me, I do this like all the time. Like I love doing my own videos on Canva, like building, you know, let's say I'm launching a course. I do some stuff on Udemy, and if I'm building a course, I have to put out a minute, well, not even a minute, like a little promo video. I can do it on Canva, and it's incredible what you can do on your own. They have all the music for you, the you know, videos you can put together, like, you know, the stock videos that you can do, all for, what am I paying, 20 Canadian a month? It's nothing. But even though you have all of these tools at your disposal, it still does not replace the knowledge that a real digital marketer or a real marketing person has, and that what they can help you with. So, you know, even as simple as someone telling you, okay, these are like, you know, building your own brand, building your logo, building your brand colors and the brand identity. Like, I'm very happy I hired someone to do that for me, because yeah, I could go through the motions on Canva and build something, but there's nothing that ties it all together. That's someone that's actually done it before and knows how to promote a brand. So the tools are great, but it doesn't replace having someone that really knows what to do in terms of tying it all together. Did you use anyone for branding, David? Like, did you hire someone, or did you build all the logos yourself?
I started with doing it myself. Then hired a couple of different people that worked off of each other's ideas and my original idea, and then changed that up slightly, and that's what we're going with now. Not the one that you probably saw on Twitter, but the coin variant. The coin variant ended up looking a good bit stronger than the logo variant that we got before. So going with that now. And one interesting thing on that is while we were using an NFT artist, they were pulling up designs that were like the very first one that I made. So they were thinking in a similar thread as that. But yeah, if you hire someone, and this is the same reason I don't like all those people saying like, yeah, just build it yourself with AI. Yeah, you can build the first one with AI, but you have a training window for any new thing that you do. Like it takes you 1 year to learn it, 3 years to learn it, or months to learn it. No matter what, there's that training window. And while you're ramping up in that training window, that could be time that you could have been getting to market instead by hiring this other person that already knew that already went through that training.
No, that's absolutely, that happened to me as well. You know, I'm stubborn, you know, like I want to do it myself. I could do it myself, but before you know it, you've wasted so much time, and it's the wrong way to do things. But of course, you're also under a budget, right? And you're trying to save money. You're trying to spend money in the right ways, although likely most of the money that you have should be going to marketing. So to bring in new clients. The other interesting thing I found, especially with working, you know, or not even just working with someone, or why you need someone to even handle this, is like, you know, if you're primarily going with online marketing, so there's always everyone thinks that you're just going to go on to start posting stuff on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, and then the people come, right? It's just like, oh, I post, great, and then you're like, why am I not getting any traffic to the website? You do it a few more times. What I learned also, you know, so the classic sales funnel, and this obviously is not, it depends on the kind of product that you're trying to do. The classic sales funnel is that you need to collect email addresses. So the whole point of your social media marketing or your social media presence is to post like, hey, you know, I'm giving away a free ebook with all of these tips or whatever. And then people come, they have to put in their email address, they get your freebie, and then you can start the marketing machine and start putting together, you know, the value proposition. So this is the classic sales funnel that people have. So too many people believe that social media is actually going to generate revenue. Really doesn't. As far like as what I've learned is that the social media is designed to generate your contact list. And once you have the contact list, so email marketing is, I think the stat was 40% more effective than social media marketing, which I guess makes sense. You know, you don't want to spam people. I mean, it's illegal, but at the same time, you got to build the qualified leads and then you go after the qualified leads. So the whole machinery here of using social media, like, you have, it's like this hungry monster that needs to be fed nonstop. You cannot take a break. It's all about, like, you know, even us, like doing a podcast, you have to be consistent. Your audience needs to know what to expect from you. So if you think you're just going to go on social media, I'll post once a week, or, you know, do it haphazardly without a real plan and a consistent plan, it's going to fail. It's going to fail big time because nobody has an attention span nowadays, and the competition is insane. So this is the advantage of having a professional or someone really knowing. It's also managing the schedule, knowing which posts are going to go out when, which activities are going to go when, understanding how to use automations with all of your email campaigns. Like, you know, I became an expert on SendGrid and MailChimp really, really quickly. So it's like so many little things like that that you realize they're time consuming, but you have to do them repeatedly, stereotyped, or it's going to go nowhere. And I think that's really the value of really hiring someone. But then, as you mentioned, David, doing the due diligence on people, especially remote. I mean, you could be hiring people from any country on this planet. How do you do the due diligence? Like, how do you really know who you're hiring? Obviously, you had someone local, referral, it's one thing, but I mean, what was your experience like, you know, in terms of finding the right people?
Even when the best people that I got were really the ones that just came by and then started helping out, as opposed to others. Now, with my own experience of doing that with other companies, I wouldn't recommend it. But that's what I was looking for specifically. Now, with a lot of these companies, if you go out and you help them, they're going to take the help, they're going to run with it, and then you're never going to hear from them again. But that's very literally what I was looking for. People that were invested in the project that came by, and the ones that did, and the ones that came by and helped out, I specifically grabbed them, gave them a bit of equity, and then started running with them. Like, this is basically how I got the devs. And other people say it's very, very difficult to get devs. As a dev, it's very, very easy for me to get devs. But it's very difficult for me to get marketing people, business people, finance people. That's where it's difficult for me. Probably easier for others, but like, was probably a whole thing of speaking the same language. But the ones that came by and started helping out, those were the devs, and those were the ones that I moved forward with. When it comes to marketing and such, there were plenty of people that came by that wanted to manage the community and such, and then generally what that meant was throw out a hello from time to time and then do nothing else. When it came to marketing, there are plenty of people that said that they wanted to help, and then the moment that they go to private messaging, like the DMs, they basically just say, so how much are you paying? It's like, oh yeah, like, public facing, yeah, I love equity. Like, I'd absolutely love to get in on the ground floor, like, get equity. Like, I'd work so hard for equity. I want to build a company. And the moment they get to the DM, so how much are you paying? It's like, we talked about this, like, literally out in public. Like, I said, there's no money, it's just equity. Like, you can't find anyone like that. And then you come to DMs and you say, how much money? Like, that's the exact opposite of what we were talking about. Now, when I hire people, though, that's a little bit different. When I'm hiring people, like, I go for ratings, same way you do when you buy a product on Amazon. I go out and I find the ones that were used the most, which ones have the highest ratings, and then I sort by affordability after that.
Well, where are you looking at this? Like, what site are you looking at for the ratings? Are we talking about something like Upwork or like, you know, Fiverr? No, like, where Just
I have
Google
not
it.
gotten anyone good off of Upwork at all, not even
Okay.
once. And well, no, there was one lawyer. He was decent, but like I was just using him to fill out some forms, like so easy stuff. And then and that could be done by ChatGPT now. So okay, now with Fiverr, it's probably similar. I've not gotten anyone off Fiverr, but I got them off of Upwork, and like I said, never gotten anyone good off of Upwork, and I imagine they're pretty similar. I googled around to find rating sites for contracting companies for these specific areas, like in my case, crypto, and then I went through site after site after site off of those, and until I found one that had a good set of ratings, and then I started going off of that. Now, in this case, it really depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for like an exchange or an on-ramp or anything like that, when I'm doing things like that for well-known platforms, I'll find a lot of sites, aggregate the data, and then compare based off the aggregated data. When it comes to places that don't have very much data, then like you can only find one source. I just go off the one source.
What about you, Gio? I mean, tell us a little bit about the marketing that you do with Assetra.
Well, for one, I've realized that marketing on different social media platforms, it's more or less different for each platform. Like, let's say for instance, LinkedIn, you can get away with posting twice per week, whereas on TikTok, it's more like you push out one reel a day to two reels, and you get a lot more views and exposure like that. Twitter, it's more or less about engagement on the people's posts, like commenting on the threads, stuff like that. Personally, I do think like email lists are a good thing to have, but I think like because of like how social media is growing and how people's attention span is getting a little bit shorter and shorter because of reels and TikTok and stuff like that. I think that social media is shifting um most of like the attention. So I think like most like SEO is gonna go like take a little bit of a backseat soon from now. But just to add to like what David was saying about the finding founders, I think if you look for someone who has like a mutual interest to what you're building, it's a lot better for you. I found most of my team on LinkedIn into Y Combinator co-founder matching, and I think that for anyone that's doing a startup or starting a business or looking for a co-founder, I think like those two platforms are very good. I'm not sure about like co-founders lab though.
Well, I've looked at the Y Combinator one. I mean, especially it's good because what I find like the issue is like you're a technical founder and you need the non-technical founder, or you're a non-technical founder and you need to find the right technical person.
Yeah.
And like finding the complementary skills is really, really, really important. So like what I've discovered throughout all of this is look, I'm a portfolio manager. I'm a coder. I'm really good at creating investment strategies, but I can't stand the admin aspects. I can't stand doing the accounting. I can't stand dealing with lawyers, as I've said so many times. So, finding, like, I think the one thing that I've always missed, that the missing jigsaw puzzle piece for me has always been the perfect, like a COO, someone to see all of the operations, making sure that, bills paid on time. You're dealing with all the legal aspects. And right in Canada, we've got so much bureaucracy when it comes around to like legal filings every year and stuff like that. It all takes time. And just someone to even oversee like a project management kind of role, or just somebody that's on top of all of it, so that I can just be free to run them, build the strategies, make sure the strategies are working, deal with clients, then that would have been something that would have been tremendously helpful for me, is someone to really operate as the COO and just free up all that time. Like you got to identify the things that you really don't like doing and see what ways you can to improve that. But luckily, I mean, the way AI is going right now, you can probably have an AI COO before you know it, that, build your own agentic AI that could handle all of this stuff for you. I can see that happening. I mean, think about all the disruption that we've seen in the past 2 weeks on the software companies, right? Like first, like companies like Monday and all of the other ones that are taking big hits. And now it's being moved over to some of the big banks like Morgan Stanley, because now the taxes are, I mean, this stuff is moving at such an amazing pace. I mean, think about what your dream agentic AI system would be for you to just make your lives so much easier. And that's probably going to exist in the next 6 months.
You guys mentioned, what's that?
Sorry, David, go ahead. Yeah.
You guys mentioned Y Combinator's co-founder match, and then there's also that other one that you mentioned, like Co-Founders Lab or something. I did not find success on either of those. One had bots, the other was dead. From what I found, seems like you guys had better success. With Coffee Space though, that one came out more recently. It's an app, and you swipe through people. Now the problem with this one is that a lot of people that are on there, even though it's trying to find co-founders, and that now they're saying co-founders and business partners, a lot of those people are trying to find employees instead of co-founders. So you have to weed through that. But this one, they're actually active people, so like it might work out.
Yeah, let me check this out actually.
Yeah, I've never heard of this one. This is really interesting.
First time.
You know, but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, is it like, YC, where you can like sort out like, the industry and what you're looking for in a co-founder?
I don't remember. I've not used it for a little while. Like I basically just kept moving on the tech instead, and like a lot of the people are focused on their project, so you have to move to their project. And unless you're really good at sales, like you can convince them to come over. You're probably gonna have to move to theirs. But I see on here, and yeah, it's showing. You can see location, skills, goals, commitment, and some other things on there. Role, experience. You can search by a few different things, not everything, but if you buy into it, you can access those locked fields there, and that might be good.
Yeah. So how much is it per month? Is it paid?
Right out.
Oh, it's paid. Okay.
Oh, there's a paid option and a free option. I'm using the free option.
Okay, fair enough.
The other thing, a lot of people don't really talk about, the difficulties of having partners, right? Like,
Sure.
My father's a retired lawyer. He used to say every single time I was talking about this, getting ready for shareholder agreements and everything like that, he's like, you want to know how to run a successful partnership? Don't have partners. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, it sounds great, but you need to rely on people, right? Like that. But, finding the right partners, everybody likes to, when you start, everything's like, you think everything's a paradise, everything's utopia, everything's going to be smooth sailing, and it never is, right? People disagree, it's going to happen. So, finding the right people to work with is not an easy thing. Everyone likes to come in there with the dream. Oh yeah, it's going to be great. Everybody, because look, we all read LinkedIn, we all see this stuff. Everyone's, oh, I just raised 30 million in a Series B or something like, in a second seed round or stuff like that. And everybody thinks, oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. It is not easy. There's nothing easy about it. In fact, I just chatting with a friend of mine, just had his company. It's an AI company that was just bought out. And this is like the second time he started a company that's been bought out. And it's like, hey, so it sounds really exciting, and he's like, yeah, except now I'm an employee again, and I'm working harder than I was before. So, everybody thinks that dream is, it's so easy to do. It's so easy to just create something, get bought out, and then you're rich and done. It's just not how it works at all. I mean, what is the success rate? Like 10%? I don't even know. What's the success rate for a startup?
Yeah, they'll tell you it's like.
Sorry. Yeah, I think it's like 1%, or like 1%. 1% of startups actually make it.
Yeah, and they'll tell you that, but they'll also tell you that there's a 1% funding rate for companies, and maybe there's some correlation there.
Yeah. So the 1% of the 1% is actually getting funded, basically.
So I mean, that's another interesting thing about this is funding. Like you need the money for this, right? Like, sorry. Everyone wants to, let's say, bootstrap or something like that, right? Where I don't want to, why would you want to go the VC route if you don't need to? Why would you want to have to deal with outside investors that are going to come in, pretty much tell you what to do, take over your company, Why would you want to do that if you didn't need to? So everybody, it sounds great. Okay, I'll just, raise some friends and family, do a little bit of angel stuff like that. If you can raise 200,000-300,000, but then this comes back down to what David was saying before, is like, you can't just give people equity, right? So if you're dealing with a limited amount of funds, I've come across a lot of people like, look, I don't want equity. I want to get paid. I can't feed myself off the equity today. And then at the same time, people are like, well, look, I've been through this before. I've worked for these places. I've get equity, and then nothing ever happens. And in the end, I've just spent all of that time working, and I didn't get paid. So, ideally, you want to raise money so you can pay people, so that you can actually have people that are motivated instead of promises. Not everybody can afford not to work for no money and all for the promise of money down the road. So, the funding part, it's like, really, like, what's the secret? What's the magic formula? Everybody wants to raise money. Everybody's told they need to raise money. And in reality, if you do raise money, you're going to do it to cover salaries and marketing. That's where the money's going to go. You need it to attract talent. And, getting that money, it's not easy. Did you start with like an angel round, David? Like, what was your initial seeding, your initial capital raise like?
A couple $100,000 that I put in.
Yeah.
And no one else, because no one else was going. Well, everyone says like, yeah, just raise $1 million from friends and family. Like, no, who has that? Like, the average American, like, you see these articles that say like the average American has like, what, $7 in their bank account. How many friends do you think I have that I can raise $1 million off of friends and family? And like, these people are telling me this. It's like, okay, you do it. Like, if it's so easy, you do it. And that, yeah, sure. For the people who are saying that, like, yeah, like Trump, he got like $1 million loan from his father. That's what he said, something like that. Elon Musk, his father owned a diamond mine, emerald mine, but same thing. Like, these people, they have no idea about this thing, and then they just, but they're still trying to get the story, and they don't, like, they're going to spin the story any way they want. So like, they'll just try to. They'll just find who they want and then spin the story anyway. But they're still going to pretend, and the whole thing is just pretending, like acting. Just make the story happen for me. I want the story. Give me the story. I want the feel good tingles. And they're just not living in reality. So you go over to these people, and they're going to tell you things like that. And meanwhile, what they're looking for is someone who's rich, someone who has connections, someone who already doesn't need them, because they're going to tell you that they can help you with marketing, that they can help you with connections, that they can help you with this and that, and they're not going to do any of that. Other founders that have gotten funding, what they'll say is that these people are useless, that they are there for the money, but these people. But the people who have the investment, if you follow them on Twitter, you'll see this. Like, they'll tell you themselves, like, you don't say it directly because they want to act, but they'll tell you themselves that it's like dating. Like, yeah, when you court an investor, it's like dating. You want to come in, find out about them, learn about them, make sure that they know it's not just about the money. It's exactly about the money. That's the whole reason your business exists.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is, right? They're not going to be like, especially the VC side, unless they're going to find ways to make 10 times their investment. They're not interested. That's all they care about, because, and it's also, the friends and family. Yeah. Like, I think raising $1 million friends and family is completely unrealistic. I think if you can get a couple of 100,000, you're very lucky. That's very good. It's a great place to start, because at least you have something, but of course you're not going to be able to afford to pay anyone on that. And really, just your initial angel is really just meant to get your branding, get the infrastructure going. I mean, a lot of my initial costs were all, a web developer, I needed some back end work done, things like that. Ideally, your founders, your founding team, like, what would be the ideal mix of your founding team, right? If you think about it, you definitely need the technical founder. The way I look at it, you need someone that's the core coder for your product, right? Whatever it's Web3, doesn't make a difference. Then you absolutely need somebody on the non-technical founder that's going to handle the business side, that can deal with investors, that can deal with the lawyers, deal with accountants, do all that stuff. And then, okay, so let's say, what do you think the core be? 3 people, 4 people? I still think you need somebody 3. What
3
would
or
you
4,
say with
but that's debatable depending on depending on at what point you think you need the legal side, which is probably dependent on industry. But I would say tech, business, marketing. Now, if the business guy knows legal, great. But if he doesn't, and you're in a very, very risky area, well, now you could probably use ChatGPT. You could probably use an AI. But otherwise, maybe legal. A lot of people are going to say, don't go legal, like just hire one. But if you don't have money, like how feasible is that? But at this point,
you'll
I would
spend
say
all of your money on lawyers. You will spend
Yeah.
all of your money on lawyers.
Yeah, so like at this point, I would say like consult an AI, run through it several times, maybe even play a few AIs against each other. Try to go through the legal side on that, build around it, and then get the lawyer at some other point, because like it's only necessary up to a point. Because when you're working in tech, the entire point of tech is to get around. Well, not the entire point, but the entire point of tech is make things easier. And part of making things easier is getting around regulations. Now, people wouldn't think that, but that is what it is. With Uber, what did they do? They said, well, we're doing rideshare. If people end up using that in a way that we didn't expect, that's not on us. What did it end up being? It ended up being just easy taxis, because which was a regulated industry. Taxis were a regulated industry. Uber got around it via tech by just saying, we don't sell taxis, we sell access to ride shares. We're not responsible for how they use that. How did like not Netflix, but there was another one. Not Kalshi. There's some gambling sites up right now, and what do? They say, well, we're not enabling gambling. We're selling tokens that mean this or that, and people are buying those. And then what's it? And if they misuse that, that's not on us. So they're acting as an exchange, not as a casino. But that's real. Like if you look at them, they're a casino. Like if you add one extra layer of complexity through the tech, and that's all you really need to get around all this legal stuff, which helps make access easier. So just do that. Find a way to do that.
I think that raises a couple of interesting points. The first thing I would say is, like I just started experimenting more with Claude Code the other day. Because I've been using Claude for coding for a long time. Never had the time to actually start sitting down and figure out how to use Claude Code. And then I realized, oh my God, this is just ridiculous. And that can replace anyone that you needed for your if you were doing someone for your UI, let's say to build your website, the UI, you don't need that anymore. You could have Claude Code build that for you in a matter of minutes. Yeah. The more complicated back end is one thing, but like your front end, so I find that it's changing the entire landscape in terms of what were considered to be core needed skills for the founders compared to like just not true anymore because of the power of AI, assuming it does it properly. The legal side on AI, though, I'm actually amazed at how much all of them have improved at the legal aspect over the past, let's say, 1 to 2 years. 2 years ago, when my father's a retired lawyer here, and I decided to just generate a lot of the annual documents, for your minute book, the shareholder, like all the little things. I decided to just do the AI, have it do it for me. And I sent it to my father. He's like, who the hell did this? Like, it's crap. This is like terrible. And he starts, next thing I know, I'm on the phone with him for an hour and a half. He's explaining every problem I'm like, just tell me it's all wrong and whatever. So, and then I try it again now, doing some other stuff that needed done. And my father's like, yeah, this is really good.
Yeah.
And I was like shocked. I'm like, I thought for sure he was going to tear it apart. So the fact that that's how much better it's gotten. I know people that are doing all of their legal stuff now using AI. That I find kind of scary. I mean, it's the law, It's like if there's one area where you cannot afford to make mistakes, it's probably on the legal aspect, especially if you're dealing with crypto and Web3. So, yeah. But I am amazed at the leaps and bounds that the AI has made on the legal side.
Yeah, but you can get around that easily enough. So here's the way I see it. Now, rich people, which includes lawyers, made AI to try to get access to. Now, this is The AI was just a thing that they made to make things better. Sure. But let's take a look at it from this perspective. Rich people made AI to get access to experience without having to pay for it. Now they don't have to pay us. Now they can just do it themselves, and they don't have to worry about dealing with that help. So now, if that works, if that sticks, then what we have here is we have a way to access experience. Lawyers have experience. Lawyers are an experienced field that you have to pay a lot of money to, and you don't want to deal with them either. So just go through the AI. Like it's literally what it's made for. So when it's going to make things up. All of them do. So just give it a way to say I don't know. Like same way as people. People like to feel super impressive and like feel appreciated and all that stuff, and they're going to lie to you too. So give them a way to say no. Make sure that they know that they can say, I don't know, or some variant of that you don't expect them to have the answer. Great. Make sure that it puts out sources. So that way you can verify that the data does actually exist. And then also have it review, like either on a new session or via new AI, have it review the previous material that was generated. Then no problems, or very, very few problems. Because when you know what you're doing, like with software engineering, for example, when you know what you're doing, you're going to find problems with it. Like for example, with code, it will generate hard-coded strings, hard-coded numbers, hard-coded this and that, which you don't want. If you want something to be applied to a lot of different areas, you're not going to want that. It's probably the same in law, it's probably the same in finance, it's probably the same in these other areas, but I know code. And I know that when it does this with code, it creates these errors that may work for these specific examples that you give it, but they're not going to work when you try to generalize that out for other things. So yeah, have it be reviewed by other things, check against standards, check the sources, all these things, but use it to get access to the experience without having to pay the experienced people. Same thing everyone else's.
Yeah, I mean, that works for everything other. It's not just legal, right? It works for accounting. It works for almost everything. So, I mean, like, the one thing that I've been trying to do, like, there's so many repetitive tasks. Let's say even just doing my expense reports, at the end of every month, doing my expense reports, right? I still cover a lot of corporate expenses out of pocket and then reimburse myself from the company, right? So you can, it's almost like a shareholder loan is what the accountants would call it, right? You're the company, I'm lending the corporation money, the corporation's paying me back. So, but for some reason I still haven't created, like, it should be something so easy for me to do. Like, I don't want to necessarily put crazy sensitive financial information into the AI. Like, there's no way I'd put something that's like a social security number, anything like that. You don't want to do that. Yeah. But I could easily spend anywhere from an hour to 2 hours doing an expense report every month, transferring all the receipts. You have to take pictures of the receipts, making sure everything's in the folder that your accountant could access. So at this point, like, I mean, why am I not just creating some kind of, especially since I know how to do it, create an agentic AI system where I can just upload all of the receipts. Here is, let's say, last month's, as you could use as a model, generate the spreadsheet for me, and this is the category. Like, I still haven't done that. It's just because, sometimes, it could save you, it'll take you maybe 2 hours to build. And it's like, oh, do I have the 2 hours right now to build this? But, there's so many little admin tasks like that if I could, I should be using AI to free up that time. And I don't know why I'm so lazy and I haven't got to it. But I mean, get rid of the admin tasks.
Yeah, that was a thing that developers used to point out. Like they encounter a problem twice, and the second time they immediately start automating it. And then they spend like a month trying to automate a problem that would take an hour.
Yeah. So you have to calculate your break-even time, like how, once if it takes you a month to build, okay, so that means within, let's say, a year, you've broken even with your time. But I do believe in that. And again, my same boss, the one who just passed away from pancreatic cancer, told me about the first rule of sales. He also, it's a lot of the work we were doing. Everything's about process. Everything. The second you have to do something more than once, you need a process built around it. This way, it's the same thing every time, and it works, and it speeds up time. It's efficient. It's operational efficiency. And, creating that process sometimes can take time. But yeah, no, I'm a big believer in process. And if you have to start doing something more than once, you need a process around it. So, Joe, what were you going to say there, man?
Yeah, I was asking, like, we were just speaking about AI and, the legal aspect of it, but do you think that, AI will probably cause at least 30% unemployment by the end of this year? Seeing as how, it's
End
already,
of this year?
yeah, seeing as how it's already automating a lot of, like, processing, like, companies, and it's, it's a lot cheaper than to hire people.
No, it is, but honestly, like, I really have no idea. I mean, if you just look at the numbers right now, like the employment numbers, it seems to be no one hiring, no one leaving. That seems to be the theme in the employment numbers. So yes, we've been seeing stories of layoffs and things like that, but I don't think we've seen anything on a net basis right now. I also think that the rate of change right now is just so high. It's just almost impossible to know what's going to happen a month out, 2 months out. I still think we're at the phase, where you've got the hyperscalers, you got everybody going like that, investing like crazy. We're at the show me the money phase. So I think a lot of that answer will be a lot clearer over the next 6 to 12 months once we actually start seeing if companies that are investing in AI are actually getting the benefits from it. We don't know that yet. So that's why it's a very hard question to answer. We see people laying off. We see that obviously between the software stocks sell off and then the companies that were exposed on the accounting side selling off. There's definitely the fear that something is imminent. But I still think we're in the show me phase. So until we actually see the results, it's a very difficult question to answer.
I'm rather happy that OpenAI that people are starting to figure out about that one.
About what? Sorry.
About OpenAI? Yeah. So Sam Altman, absolutely hate that guy. So things popped off with OpenAI. Yeah, great. He started off the whole AI thing with his company. Wonderful. Now, when he courted investment, there's a video of him saying this, like literally, like him talking to investors. Like, you have, well, maybe not a video, maybe it was an article, but one way or another, I got the information that he said to investors, invest in us. I don't know how we're going to make money, but once we hit Gen AI, we will ask it how to make money, and you'll get your investment back.
Oh yeah, I've seen that clip on TikTok many times.
Yeah, I've seen
that worked. People invested in that. Well, he's clearly an idiot, and here's why. You have DeepSeek right over there. You have Kimi right over there. All these models, all over HuggingFace.co. You have every single one of them, and plenty of them outperform OpenAI, and most of them, if not all, operate at a lower expense point. What's his problem? Expenses. He has money going out the door. He's losing billions every quarter. And what do these models do? At 1,000th of the cost, they do the same thing that his company does. Just throw out your code, copy theirs, start over. Like, you solve basically your entire problem if you grab their code and you start from there. If your problem is expenses and you have this way to cut down why are you not taking that?
I agree. There's two things I want to say there. One, I will point out to all of our listeners out there that any opinions about people and organizations expressed by each person does not necessarily represent the view of the Crypto and Coffee podcast as a whole. All right? Because I think Sam Altman might be one of our listeners out there that, subscribers on Spotify. And the other thing I'll say, about that, yeah, I mean, look, I think that a lot of questions I get, being a finance guy and like a portfolio manager and whatever you want to call me, a portfolio management expert, I get this question all the time from people. The spending, like the CapEx on AI, is this justified, right? And that's the question we get all the time. It's like, because it's in the news, they're spending billions upon billions. The entire stock market is being supported by a few companies spending billions on AI infrastructure. And it's the same money, as we had this conversation before, David, it's the same money just going between the same players, right? It's not new money. It's just money being moved around. So what does that mean for the market? And I say, well, you know what? Like, again, it's the show me phase. They're spending all of this money. We will see if it pans out. But I think the bigger problem or the bigger question issue comes from, are they spending too much money on the wrong things when you have Chinese models that work incredibly well and cost half the price? And that, as you've told me, many startups in the US, and so they're actually using DeepSeek nowadays. They're not using OpenAI or Anthropic. I mean, even the simple agents that I like, the agent that I need to use every month right now to run for some of my strategies, I'm using DeepSeek because it was half the cost. You know, it might not be patriotic, but it was half the cost of using Anthropic. So I think that's more a lot of the uncertainty that's going to come around. Are the hyperscalers overpaying? It's, well, at what point do people realize they don't need to be spending this amount of money when cheaper options exist?
Yeah.
So I think that's what's going to really, like, it's just so early. So are they spending too much money? Will people be laid off? And, you know, how can they reduce the cost of all the spend? I mean, these are like the big questions that we just don't have answers to right now. But, and then, you know, look, if you think about how many people were hired in the pandemic era, whether, I mean, think about government bloat, right? Think about the bloated governments that we have both in Canada and United States. I mean, lots of people on the government side, like, you know, these are prime areas that could be replaced by AI. I know that's not a very popular thing to say, but, you know, like, we've hired so many people in the public service throughout the pandemic, and with the government that we had here, you know, you know, is it government layoffs we're going to see, or is it private sector layoffs that we're going to see? And that's another huge question. At what point will government layoffs really pick up?
You saw with all those job numbers and the revisions and such, most of the jobs that got created within the U.S. were government for now I don't remember which years I was
Oh,
checking.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but for several years it was, well, several quarters at least, the jobs numbers were all in government. So they were saying, like, look, we've made all these jobs. We're going to be making the economy better. Look how good things are getting. And it was all the government. So it was basically all the tax money was just going to these people to do bureaucratic work that adds no value to anyone. That could have been done with the same number that they were doing before, or that no one cares about in the first place. Like, for example, do you want to pay taxes so that way we could put bot flies on dogs for some reason? Probably not. But we have people that are being paid for that. Why do we have that?
I'm actually looking at the graph right here. I'm showing like government payrolls versus private sector payrolls. Yeah, if you look back towards like 21, 22, especially going through 22, the government payrolls were still like flying high, and we started seeing a huge decline in 2022 on the private side. And yeah, it's amazing when I look at this, how much of the government side growth there was compared to the private side over the past 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not sustainable. Sorry, it's not sustainable. You know, there's only so much, you know, like tax dollars can support, and it's worse here. It's worse in Canada than it is in the US. But man, anyways, look, it's interesting times, and, you know, I just find it like, you know, don't even know what AI is going to be able to produce next week, you know, and, you know, like, it should, in theory, be making the job of founders a lot easier. It should be making all of our jobs a lot easier.
I think we're coming up on the hour mark itself, or
Yeah.
already gone over. I'm not sure who's keeping track at this point, because, you know, the conversation is going good.
I don't think we've ever really done a good job at keeping track of our time.
That is true.
But yeah, we can call it. I mean, that was very interesting. And I think the funny thing is, going into this one as well, you know, for all of our listeners out there, we were talking like, okay, well, we're all technical founders. You know, what kind of advice are we going to be able to offer on marketing and all this stuff? But then I was like, we are actually the best people to offer advice, because we didn't know anything before starting. We've had to learn. We've had to do the baptism under fire, so to speak, and definitely learned some valuable lessons. And I think for everyone out there that's looking into starting a company and has questions about the marketing, it's like, look, there's so many resources out there to help you, but never shy away from, from paying someone to do the work, someone who's good. Because remember, in the end, you get what you pay for.
I completely agree. David, anything to say before we end off?
Oh, no, I completely agree with that. Use the T app as an example.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, thank you to all the listeners out there. This has been episode 11 on the Crypto and Coffee podcast. Not sure what we're gonna do for episode 12. I think we can talk a little bit more about the AI and AI workforce. Go a little bit more in depth in that topic. That is a good topic we can touch upon.
Yeah, I think another topic that I'd like to, bring up with you guys down the road is, the media. Everyone's just so focused on cryptocurrencies as an investment, or it not being an investment. But, the actual tokens, the cryptocurrencies have other roles, and no one seems to talk about that and how it actually reflects on the technology aspect of the blockchain. It's like, okay, enough. We get it. Bitcoin's volatile. We get it. But that's not what we're working on. And, how do we get people focused on what the actual applications of the blockchain technology are, and that the cryptocurrencies have a huge role in that? And I think that could be an interesting topic down the road.
Yeah. So I guess we have another talk for episode 12. But, yeah. This has been episode 11 of the Crypto Coffee podcast. See you guys later. I hope you guys enjoyed this hour-long podcast.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
No problem.
Thank you.